Welcome, Jordan here. In this video, I'm going to share one of the best frameworks that I found to be able to navigate life as a human being. And this is so simple, yet so profound that I'm really excited to bring this to you because this is something that I've known for the last number of years, but it's only more recently I've really started to see these pieces click together like something I've never in my life experienced before. You know, there's some times where you can feel like you know something and then you can really know something. And I'm not saying I have it all figured out here. I'm on the journey just like you. But this video is going to be very, very important to you, especially if you're creating a life for yourself where you want more freedom, you're trying to grow your business, you're trying to just have an amazing life. Whatever it is that you want to bring into existence, let your desires run free. We're going to talk you through the three different phases to how to actually bring those into reality and the different phases that you're likely experiencing in this present moment right now, because these different phases that we're talking about here, they don't necessarily change that much. They're very, very similar, and they're this exact same for anybody, no matter what you're trying to bring into your life. So let's get into it. How do we materialize basically anything in our life, and why do challenges come up along the way to be able to, really what seems like push us away from what we're really experiencing or what we want to experience in this life? Now, as part of this, we're also going to look at a variety of different books and how basically they're all saying the same thing. If you're like myself, you've maybe went down many different rabbit holes, read many different books, you've experimented with a lot of different things, and sometimes it can feel like information is scattered all over the place and you're trying to really find the oneness in everything. And we're going to look at that as well, because this has been a really, really interesting insight for myself. If you see me looking to the side here, it's because I have a couple of notes to jot down to make sure that we get through everything, because this is really, really powerful. And when I realized it, I blew my mind. It just blew my mind altogether. So books like Reality Transurfing, books like The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, The Upper Limit is another book. The Study of Kabbalah is another one as well. And then we have Hermetic Philosophy, aka the book The Kabbalion, which is another one. So you'll see here that we have 5 different books, and they range from different perspectives, right? We have a little bit of productivity there in terms of like how to be more effective, but then we have the other side of the plane, which is the more spiritual aspect of things, which would be the Kabbalah, for example. You have the Kabbalion, which is again more about universal principles. And then you have the Upper Limit, which is really based on like mindset and just how to look at the world and look at challenges. And then we have Reality Transurfing, which is kind of somewhere in the middle between all of them, right? Now, these are very different books, which is why I chose them, because there's just, there's so many different ways that we can look at things. But when we start to see the oneness in everything, things start to get really magical. So we'll get into that later on, because I need to explain to you first the different phases that you're going to experience no matter what it is that you're trying to achieve in life. And then we'll tie these in at the end with how these books basically say the same thing over and over and over again. Without further ado, let's look at phase 1. So phase 1 is really the ask. It's the desire. An example of this is, let's say, when I was in a job and I was working a 9 to 5 job, and I was also in college as well at the time, I had the desire in my soul to get out of this job, to not work a 9 to 5, and to go and to travel and to work online and to start to create something for myself. That was a desire. That immediate desire is the thing that starts to say basically to, whatever it is that you believe in, like a higher power, God, source, universe, whatever the case is, you're basically saying to the world, I don't want to live this life anymore. I want more. And immediately we start to set an intention based on this desire for more, right? Whether that's consciously or unconsciously, we're basically saying and shouting from the rooftops, give me more, whether it's more money, more freedom, more love, more abundance, more, whatever the case is for you, right? We all have these different desires, and they're perfectly fine. Own your desires. They're beautiful. They're meant for you. The universe then hears it, and they respond instantly. And they're like, I'm trying to give you this. I'm trying to give you this because, yeah, of course I want to give it to you. I want to give you everything, right? If you look at any religious study, right, or anything around God or anything around just the understanding of energy, you'll understand that you make an ask and your desire is met almost immediately. At least it wants to be. But that's where phase 2 comes in. When we look at phase 1, what we're saying here is basically we're saying, I want to expand my energetic state. I want to raise my vibration. I want to raise my energetic frequency. I want to expand my vehicle, the vehicle that allows me to carry a certain energetic frequency and a certain energetic vibration that is actually creating the reality that I'm in right now. So if I'm in a place where I don't like, it's because I have brought it to myself to experience the discomfort of it, to then change my desire to want something different. And this reality that I find myself in, for example, when I was in that job or I was in college, I had attracted that into my life because that's what I was comfortable with, that's what I was accepting, and that was my standard. But then I got the desire to change it. But the thing is, instead of those desires being met immediately, basically how this works, right? If we just think about it like this, when you say, hey, I want this desire, the universe is like, hey, I'm trying to give it to you, but you need to grow. You need to expand. You need to be able to receive what I'm trying to give you, or else you will not be able to hold it. And a beautiful example of this is when we are, let's say, thinking of ourselves as a electric bulb, right? So we can hold, let's say, 100 watts of energy. 100 watts of energy is our capacity. But now we're saying, hey, I want 1,000 watts of energy to come into my vehicle, my essence. And when we are, let's say, going through that understanding, we're like, okay, how do we take on 1,000 watts of energy, but our vehicle, our bulb in this case, can only hold 100? Because if you were to put 1,000 watts of energy into a 100-watt bulb, what would happen? It would explode. It would be no more. It would just disappear. It would blow up and then it would be darkness. So what we're saying here is like, we're saying we want more, but we now need to expand our vehicle. We need to raise up on our levels of consciousness, our energetic frequency, to be able to receive. And that's really where we're looking at phase two. So phase two is where we're at when we're in the process of expanding that vehicle. And that's the beautiful part about it. It's just that many times we think that the things that arise after we've set the desire are things that are just like these bad or negative things happening to us. And this can happen in so many different ways, so many nuances to this. And we spend a lot of our life in phase two. Don't get me wrong, right? We have desires, and then immediately after we've put out that message into the world, we immediately start to receive challenges to help us rise, to expand. That is exactly why those challenges exist. But oftentimes we push them away. We're like saying, hey, I want this desire, but I don't want this challenge. I don't want this challenge. I don't want to look at this. I don't want to look at my shadow. I don't want to look at these darker parts of myself, these unconscious things that are coming to the surface. Let's just ignore those and let's move them away. But I really want this desire. You can see there's a massive contradiction, right? Because we're not trained, or we're not, really thought to look at challenges as growth opportunities. And when I started to look at things and flip the perspective around that to see everything as a growth opportunity, that's when everything shifted for me. And that was a number of years ago. It's only really now this is starting to really solidify. And we'll get into that just later when we look at these different books. So phase two is basically saying you don't get the thing, you get a mirror back from reality to show you the thing that is going to allow you to grow in this moment in time. So let's look at an example of this. You start getting into sales, right? Let's say you're starting off with remote sales and you want to start, selling for somebody else, or it's a business, or whatever the case is. You say, hey, I'm going from this job and I want to be in this, I want to be in this new reality where I'm making 10, 20, 30, 40 grand a month, and I want to be living remotely, and I want to be in control of my own income. Amazing. That's the desire. It's put out into the world. Now, immediately, you are going to be faced with challenges. Well, okay, what do I do next? Well, maybe I go and I get into a program. Maybe I find a coach or a mentor, or I find somebody who's maybe done a couple of these things so I can at least learn in that way, shape, or form. Great. Amazing. But the next thing then comes up is like, oh, right, so we gotta talk to people. Okay, so we gotta talk to people. We gotta learn how to sell. We gotta learn the structure. We gotta learn psychology. We gotta learn like how to communicate better. And you may be facing really, really extensive fears and doubts that you've never experienced before in your life. All of a sudden now, you're getting memories of those times where you were rejected as a teenager or rejected as a child, and you had that fear of being rejected by your peers. And now that fear is starting to show up in sales. because you're trying to communicate with people, and you're feeling like this energy of like, oh, I feel like I just can't really authentically express myself. Now that was never a problem before, because you didn't desire something more. But when you desired something more, immediately that challenge shows to show you the unconscious part of yourself that needs to be letting go of these things so that you can naturally rise, right? So, all of these different things, and we'll look at another couple of examples because there's so many nuances to this, right? When we look at this, a lot of the time you look at content out there will tell you just, hey, keep working, keep working harder, keep moving forward, keep doing these different things. Yes, there's absolutely truth to that, because if you just move past these doubts and fears and you keep going with that direction, a lot of the time in those beginning phases, you'll get far enough to be able to make some progress and actually probably create some results for yourself. Absolutely. But there comes a point where you'll have to address some deeper aspects to this, and that's really where the spiritual journey becomes very, very important. And anybody who tells you that this is not a spiritual journey that we're on doesn't necessarily understand what we're talking about here, right? Because it is a very, very spiritual journey that we're on. And when I say a spiritual journey, it's because we're trying to expand our soul. We're trying to let go of the baggage and the trauma and the pain and the unconscious patterns and beliefs that are now showing up in our reality based on this new desire that we have set for ourselves. So let's look at another example. Let's say now it could be a similar thing, but you're starting a business. You're reaching out to people, and all of a sudden now just have this like really bad fear of rejection. You don't want to message people, even though you know you have to start conversations, and everybody's telling you that, hey, you need to just do more volume and you need to talk to more people. But you're afraid of rejection, and you're afraid that you're coming across, as someone who's almost like a sales guy or something like that, and you feel a bit weird about that. Or maybe they're telling you to go and create content and build a brand for yourself, but you're not even comfortable talking to yourself, not to mind talking to a camera. Right? You see how all these unconscious parts come up for people in different ways, and I've been through many of them myself as well. But this can happen in different ways too. So let's say you get past some of those initial hurdles, right? Let's say your journey as a spiritual being, as a soul, is a little bit different. Let's say you make a little bit more progress, a little bit faster than other people. Now, that just could be your path. That's fine. That happens for some people, and that's okay. Everybody's path is very, very different. So people make progress at different times. It could be financially, it could be spiritually, it could be in terms of relationship, community, all these things that we desire. So let's say you're somebody who's actually doing really well financially, and you've actually made some incredible progress for yourself. But now you've built an income for yourself where you've come from this place of pure hustle, and you've been creating results for yourself from that energy. Well, you've probably come to the point where you're like, I'm enjoying this money I'm making, but I feel like shit, for lack of a better term. I feel like I'm grinding, hustling, chasing these results, and it feels horrible. It feels terrible. So how can I start to look at then dissolving some of this so that I can still make great money, but maybe work a little bit less and actually just feel at peace, right? Which is really what we're looking for at the end of the day. And that then causes a new desire to form, a new desire to form. And that new desire starts to create these other challenges where you go a little bit deeper into the journey, and different things get shown to you. Maybe you have to dissolve some unconscious blocks around your parents, a little bit of things that have maybe happened in the past that you weren't even really that aware of start to show up in your life, and these conversations and synchronicities start to happen. And that's really just the thing that starts to unfold before you. These are all mirroring back to you because you set the desire, and because of that, you get mirrored back to you at every moment in time. What is most relevant for you to dissolve? And again, there is just so many nuances to this. I'll give you a personal example. When I was in those beginning stages and I was getting used to creating content, now by pure brute force, I was creating 3 videos a day on TikTok, and I was just like, hey, I'm just going to get my voice out on camera and just get used to doing that. That was fine. So I was kind of brute forcing it a little bit, but there was still so many fears and so many doubts. And a lot of it was coming from this need for validation. Like I was needing to be validated. So I would check my likes, I would check my subscribers, I would check my followers to see, surely I have more followers now, because I was looking for the validation that was coming from that. But what was being mirrored back to me was this like intense form of attachment that was coming from the need for validation from other people. Now, since then, I've been able to dissolve that many, many times of that being mirrored back to me. And that was one of the key lessons that I had to learn to be able to settle into, building the business the way I wanted to build it and showing up the way I wanted to show up so I could actually show up and serve and not come from a place of like needing you or anybody else online to like me, because that's not a great energy to come from if you're really trying to help people. So these were all different things that showed up for me. So it's so nuanced. So the journey for you will be very, very nuanced as well. But it's important to remember that we're all on a very specific journey with a very specific set of lessons and gifts. Really, they are gifts at the end of the day that are being mirrored back to us at every given time that we need to bring awareness to see, hey, this thing is being mirrored back to me in my reality. This person said something that was completely neutral, but for some reason, that had an effect on me. And I feel triggered. I feel annoyed. I feel frustrated and resentful of this person. And it's nothing really to do with them. It's to do with me, because I set this desire, and this person, as a synchronicity, was brought into my life to say this thing, to mirror back to me the very thing that's going to actually help me grow and expand. But I need to dissolve it first. And this is where the inner work comes in. This is where internal mastery plays the 80% of the role in you actually achieving the thing you want to achieve, right? And if we look at what phase 3 really looks like, phase 3 is the receiving of that. Because along your journey, let's say you have goals, and we'll just put monetary milestones on it. Let's say 10K a month. 10K a month is where you want to get to in your business. And there's a certain set of challenges you have to overcome to be able to get to that point. There's a certain amount of actions you have to take as part of that as well. Absolutely. They go both hand in hand. But there's certain things that will come up in your life. You dissolve those things. You bring awareness to the unconscious blocks. You let them go. And then you expand your vehicle. Your energetic frequency is now rising. And that is because it's rising, you're finding yourself deeper in alignment with the goal that you have set, so that you're now at eye level with the goal. So the goal just comes. It just arrives, because you get to an energetic state internally where the goal doesn't feel like it's on a pedestal anymore. It just feels like it's just normal. It's normal that it's here now. And it's the same at the next level, the 20K or the 50K or the 100K, or the love of your life, or the soulmate, or the relationship, or the health, or the body you want, whatever it is, whatever the case is, right? Health, wealth, relationships are the three main areas. But when you raise your energetic frequency and your level of consciousness aligns with the thing that you have set based on the internal work that has helped you get to that point, you will align with it. And the phase 3 is you receiving that, because you have opened up your capacity to receive that. And now you're like, okay, this is amazing, but I kind of want this instead, or I want this goal, and I want that, because naturally we are wired to grow and expand. And that's a beautiful thing. Don't be afraid of that. Own your desires, whatever you want in life, allow yourself to want it, but be okay with the phase 2 that comes in next, which is the challenges that will arise to bring those things into your life. So we could talk for hours on phase 2, because there is just so many nuances to what that journey can look like for people, which is why I work with people on this area specifically, because again, sometimes you need a mirror back to you. Sometimes you need certain tools for very specific scenarios and specific situations. So there's so many ways to look at this, but phase 2 is where 99% of the growth comes from, right? It's going to come from the internal work, but then also the action that comes with that as well. And don't get me wrong, you can get there from action alone to a certain level, but there will come a point where you will be shown, especially if you want this really amazing life where you feel peaceful, you feel fulfilled, you feel amazing, you feel excited about the work that you're doing, you make really great money, you have beautiful relationships in your life, your health is great. Like that's pretty much asking for everything. So if you're asking for everything in life, and you're not just focused on, hey, I just want to make more money, I just don't care how I get there, then yeah, you can brute force that 100%. But if you're someone who's looking for like a holistic way of looking at life, me personally, that's how I approach things. So things can be a little bit slower when you're going that path, because there's so many different things to dissolve. There's so many different things to let go of along that way, and that are being mirrored back to you at any given time. So with all that being said, phase 2 is the most important thing that we'll ever look at. So wherever you are at in your journey, take a step back. What is being mirrored back to me right now that I may need to dissolve or just go deeper into, to start to see the lesson and the gift of what's really being shown to me? And even if you don't fully believe it yet, even if you don't fully believe that there's a lesson here, if you don't fully believe that this is a gift and it's actually something that's helping you rise, it's actually the very thing that's going to give you exactly what you want, you can take a step back and say, thank you. Thank you for this amazing challenge. Because if I'm receiving this challenge and it feels like I have a lot of doubt and fear, and I'm not saying it's easy by any means, but if you can bring a sense of light into that darkness, you will allow yourself to expand almost immediately, because you will start to see the whole point of the game. The whole point of the game is to receive these challenges so that you can dissolve them and rise. It's like you are pumping hot air into the hot air balloon, trying to soar off into the sky. But if you're trying to brute force it and trying to ignore the challenges and the lessons, you just keep pumping like hot air into the hot air balloon, when all you really have to do is cut the sandbags at the side of the basket. You cut the unconscious blocks, you cut the dense emotions, you cut the trauma, you cut the other things at the side that allow you to just naturally ascend, because you're meant to naturally ascend. Those desires that you have outlined in your life, they're perfect. They're exactly what is meant for you. You would not desire it if it wasn't already for you. So think of it that way. It's already done. There's already a reality that exists for you to simply step into. And this is the beautiful part about it. And this is where like reality transurfing comes in a little bit, where they talk about lifelines and things, but we'll get to that in just a second. When you choose to dissolve those things, you get the support, you do the work, you go deeper within yourself, and you start to dissolve these things and unravel them, right? As challenging as it may be sometimes, when you do those things, you simply go from one movie that you're playing within your life, the life of your movie, the movie of your life. When you dissolve those things, you step into a new lifeline, a new movie. It's like you walk out of the theater and you stop watching the movie that's not serving you anymore, that you're not enjoying. You don't go off and try to change the movie. You just simply walk out. You go watch another movie. And that new movie has come from you dissolving the unconscious things that have stopping you from, being able to step into that place in the first place. So you go watch a new movie. And then there may be some things about that movie you don't enjoy. That's fine. But you're at a new baseline now. And then you go find another movie. So you're switching lifelines. You're switching the timelines. If we start to get stuck in victimhood and we start to see, okay, all these challenges, why is this happening to me? Life is really hard. This is horrible. I don't know how to do this. And then we start to blame the world. Then we fall deeper and deeper into darkness. And that's where people quit. That's where people say, hey, this isn't for me. And they go off and they delay the journey of something that could have been a couple of weeks, a couple of months, and to delay it for years. And this is really how you accelerate the journey overall, is by understanding what we're talking about here, seeing all of these challenges as growth opportunities. And when you do that, you immediately at least take the steps towards getting in alignment with the thing that you've desired, the thing that you've set for yourself. And that for me has been one of the most profound understandings, where I just truly accept that as truth, right? And you may be skeptical, which is why we're going to go through some of the books right now, okay? So let's look at this from reality transurfing perspective first. And we're not going to go too deep here. We're just going to touch on some of the core concepts in each one of these books, and we're going to see how these different things correlate, okay? Reality transurfing talks a lot about excess potential, this excess energy of like when we create excess importance on something, we start to push it further and further away from us, okay? So this comes from a state of craving. We're craving something. We need it. We need it to happen. We're attached to it. We want it. We desire it so much that we just need it to happen. It's just an energy where it just naturally pushes things away. If you ever think of any relationship, right? When you need somebody, they just naturally are like, that is for some reason, it's like, I just don't want to be around this person. It's too much. Why do they need me so much? Like, it's like, what's wrong with them? Or like, for lack of a better term. So when we balance the emotion and we release the attachment, we find the flow, the natural flow of life, which is the exact thing that we're talking about here. Because when we start to get so fixated on being a victim, or we feel like, these challenges, like, why are they happening to me? And we throw our hands up in the air and we start to feel really down. The reason we're feeling really down is because there's things to dissolve. There's things to let go of. And if we simply just see them as something, hey, we're just here to let this go. We're here to like see this unconscious block. Amazing. This is a gift. It's showing me exactly what I need to do to be able to let go and to be able to rise into this place where I can receive. And we're aligning ourselves with the flow, the same way it talks about in reality transurfing. So the thing is, the overall theme with this is we don't chase the goal, we actually align ourselves with it. And the way we align ourselves with it is we raise our energetic frequency, we raise our levels of consciousness to align with the goal, instead of trying to like be so attached to it that we need it to happen so we can feel better, because that's the very thing that's being mirrored back to you to dissolve. It's the need for it. Where's the need coming from? That's the thing that's being mirrored back here. When you dissolve that, you just, again, naturally ascend and align yourself with the goal. So that's reality transurfing. Next one is the 7 habits of highly effective people. One of the main concepts in this book, incredible book. It's actually like sitting like right there behind me. This book is great. It was written many years ago. I think it's very practical. It has some cool pictures in there as well. I like books with pictures. And the seven habits of highly effective people, they talk about one core concept in the beginning of the book, which is proactivity. Being proactive instead of being reactive. So when we are reactive, we are reacting to things all around us and we're not really in control. So for example, let's say somebody triggers us. Somebody says something and it makes us feel insecure. It makes us feel defensive. And we're like, oh, I wish that person didn't say that, even though it could have been completely neutral. That's a reactive response, right? When really we're trying to be proactive. We're trying to see, hey, what this person said triggered me for some reason. This is showcasing an unconscious part of me that needs to be dissolved, because that's the very thing that I've brought into my reality right now to showcase the thing I need to work on so that I can naturally ascend. So I can almost thank this person. You're being proactive. You're not being reactive. You can actually see it as the opportunity that it is. So that's how we look at that there as well. So beginning with the end in mind is something they also mention as well. And this is kind of correlated to like the soul's vision for your life, right? So the vision that you have for yourself, the desire that you have, it's almost like a vision, right? You're stepping into something new. So you're beginning with the end in mind, which is the concept from the book. And then what we're talking about here is the soul's mission, soul's vision. Instead of falling victim to these different things, in the book they talk about sharpening the saw. It's the same idea. Sharpening the saw is the same idea as expanding your vehicle, expanding your vessel, and you open up the capacity by doing that to receive more into your life. It's the same idea, saying the very, very same thing. Okay. Now let's look at the upper limit. This is one of my favorite ones by Gay Hendricks. You're trying to get to the next level, and all of a sudden you have this unconscious block that comes up that stops you in your tracks because maybe you feel like you don't deserve it. Maybe you feel like it's a level that you never got before, and you're like, well, this is very far away from where I currently am. Whatever the case is, this upper limit problem is the unconscious blocks that are there to stop you from growing and expanding. And this could come up in so many different ways. I was in Bali in August 2024. And when I was there, I was moving into a new place. And in a couple of weeks, I was getting ready to head to South America and also LA as well. And in LA, I was going to a mastermind event. And the time in Bali was just a time to get ready, recuperate, and get ready to go. And I was going to come back to live there afterwards. But there was a couple of moments when I was living in Bali leading up to the time I was leaving to go to America, and I was going to LA first to that event. In that time, I started to face all of this really like dark energy, like this really weird energy that was coming up where I couldn't even leave my house. I was like starting to feel really overwhelmed with the emotions I was feeling. And there was just so many things in my life coming up that it felt like it was just out of nowhere. Now, I needed, I needed someone to kind of point me back in the right direction at that time, because I was getting so flustered in my mind, and I was still, trying to work through this. And again, everything that we're talking about here, sometimes it's easier said than done, especially when you're trying to remember it. So I was really trying to bring myself back into center and ask myself, okay, why are these things showing up right now? Right. And it turned out that I needed to deeply connect with my inner child. There was some things that were coming up in relation to parents and just unconscious things that, I didn't expect, but I said, hey, I want to go to the next level. I want to expand. I want to grow. And a lot of it came up around the fear of being seen, the fear of being really heard, or speaking my truth. That was what was really showing up for me. So I had to deeply connect to my inner child, do some shadow work around that. I was working with a coach and a mentor at the time, which was incredible. It sped up the whole process. And then when I got to LA, it was a 3-day event. And on the first day, I got asked to speak on the third day. So I wasn't expecting this at all. So I did the speaking gig on the third day. But that unconscious block in Bali beforehand was preparing me for that opportunity. Now, let's say I was completely unconscious of what was actually going on and I didn't move through that energy. I may not have got that opportunity. because I was being shown the way to expand. I was given the challenge, the internal challenge, to be able to grow and expand, to increase my levels of consciousness and awareness, so that I could show up and fully deliver that, that event at that event. So it was perfectly correlated. So that's one example, and it can come in many different forms. So it's the same thing. Like I was facing an upper limit problem there, and I was able to dissolve that. There was some tears, there was some letting go involved. There was a whole lot of things, but I was able to break through that and move into that higher level of consciousness that I was looking for to create that opportunity for myself. So it's interesting how these things work. And in the upper limit, they talk about the old identity creating chaos to pull you backwards. It's the same thing. It's a part of you that wants to stay small, a part of you that wants to stay comfortable, and a part of you that does not want to expand. It's the darkness. It's the ego that keeps that pushed down on top of you so that you don't grow and move, right? But we have to be able to allow ourselves to flourish in these times, okay? So in these moments of feeling that darkness, it was going through whatever you need to process, whatever you need to move through, whatever you need to reframe. But then you're also seeing the lesson, seeing the joy, and committing to the fact that this is a growth opportunity. This is something that's going to help you grow and expand, and that's a beautiful thing. So that's how it correlated to the upper limit problem. The Kabbalah, one of my favorite teachings when it comes to just tying all of these different things together. It's an incredible thing. The desire in the Kabbalah, right, creates the vessel. The vessel is what we are. We are the vessel. We are the vehicle, the vessel, whatever you want to call it. And we can hold a certain amount of energy. We can hold a certain amount of energy, which means that that certain energy that we're holding right now is creating the reality around us of what we think we deserve, what we think we can have, and what we're currently experiencing. So the desire creates the pull to be expanded. So when we look at the phase 2 of this and how those different challenges show up, the Kabbalah references Satan. In modern day, that would be considered Satan, but it's Satan. So Satan is like the opponent. It's like the negative self-talk. It's like the negative thoughts that come to the mind to test you, to see, hey, you want this thing? Here's all the self-doubt. Here's all the fear. Here's all of these different things. And it's up to you to choose to see the light and the opportunity that's actually coming up in those negative thoughts or the negative experiences or the unconscious blocks that we're talking about here. And that allows you to grow and expand by choosing that in each and every moment. Now, don't get me wrong. It's a hard thing to do. It's like a mental battle. It's like a mental game. It's the opponent that you're facing. You're at war, right? War in your mind. And the more I've leaned into that and identifying and observing when those negative thoughts come in or when those feelings of doubt or fear come in, I'm like, that's an opportunity. That means there's massive growth coming. That means there's a massive opportunity on the other side of this. Thank you. Thank you for these negative thoughts. And immediately you dissolve them because it's the challenge. It's the challenge there to help you rise and expand. And you can do that in each and every moment. You can do it with the deeper things, the denser things, but it's all the same idea, right? And they talk about in the Kabbalah as well, like more proactive behavior. So proactive behavior, or those choices that I just mentioned there of like you choose to see the gift immediately. That's being proactive. You're not being reactive. Instead of getting a negative thought and being like, oh shit, this negative thought is my identity. Oh my God, I'm not worth it. All these different things come up. You immediately choose that, hey, this is a growth opportunity. This means that there's a massive thing that's coming my way right now. So how can I see the opportunity here? Even if there's something that you feel like you're going through and it's really, really dense, it's really hard. Maybe you lost a lot of money, or maybe someone broke up with you and it feels like it's this really dark thing. But what happens is you are expanding. And when you are expanding, things need to be let go of. This can come in the form of sickness, right? Where your body's purging, like literally physically. It can come in the form of crying and tears, of just like emotional, like letting go of these different things. It can come of just like, random things happening that seem really negative in your life. These are all gifts. These are all the things that are helping you grow and expand your vehicle. It's the phase 2. It's the most important part, but we forget in these times, so don't worry. I completely get that. But proactive behavior allows us to choose the light over the dark. That's how the Kabbalah describes it. Now, the last thing, Hermetic philosophy. So the Kabbalion book, incredible book. And they talk about polarity. So everything has an opposite. So again, same thing. Gift, challenge. We receive the challenge. What's the other side? A gift. Principle, universal principle of polarity. One of my favorite universal laws, because when we remember this, we can always find the positive in the negative, and we can always find the negative in the positive so that we can start to take things off pedestals as well, right? Because everything is neutral until we give it meaning. And this is one of my favorite understandings. And then you have things like mental transmutation is what they talk about. So everything, like the universe, everything is mental. They talk about these different concepts and ideas so that you can shift into different states by choosing to be proactive, by choosing to understand the opposite side of polarity. That brings you back into, again, being proactive and aligning yourself with seeing that there's a growth opportunity here, and with seeing that everything is a gift, everything is beautiful, right? It's all happening exactly the way that you asked it to happen, right? Because if we just got things and we were just like, hey, I want to make $1 million a year, and it was like, boom, cool, now you're making $1 million a year. Yeah, in the moment that may be nice, but it's like, okay, now what? Okay, I want more. It's like, you know what I mean? There's like you got to feel like you got to earn it, because that gives you the fulfillment. It's like, for example, if you were really rich, and I didn't come from a rich background whatsoever, but if I was very rich, right, and I was growing up really rich, and my father just gave me a house and like, hey, here's a $20 million house. You just move in tomorrow, everything's all good. You're 21, now you don't have to worry about having housing. Now, to a 21-year-old, that may sound amazing, but when you really think about it, you're not going to value that house. You're not going to value it because you didn't earn it. It's not really yours. You probably just get sick of it. You won't see the value in it, which means that you'll kind of just disown it. You'll just, it won't feel fulfilling, which is why there's so much satisfaction in building a business or getting yourself to go from, someone who didn't really have much to someone who's achieving more. Like, these are beautiful things that give us fulfillment. It's the reason that we're here. It's why they say enjoy the process, because if you were just given all the things that you desire immediately, then really there would be no purpose for existing, right? It is the process, it is the journey. So the last part of the Kabbalion that's relevant to this as well is that vibration. So vibration, frequency determines your reality. When you shift into a new lifetime, you raise your levels of consciousness, you expand your vehicle, you're raising your energetic frequency, you're raising your vibration, you align with a new reality. So we looked at a couple of different books there, all books that say very different things. And some of them are in the spiritual community, some of them are in the business side or the productivity side, some of them are in the mindset side, but they're all saying the same thing. There's 3 phases. You decide what you want. Phase 2 is where you start to uncover the unconscious blocks that are really stopping you from having this desire so that you can achieve, earn it, and feel fulfilled by doing the work required externally, but also, more importantly, internally. And then phase 3, you receive it. And you receive it, you're like, this is amazing, this is beautiful, I love my life, but I want this. Again, the process restarts again. Phase 1 starts, you go into phase 2 and phase 3. Now, we're simplifying it here. It's very nuanced for everybody, which is why, there's a lot to think about, and depending on like what's going on in your life right now. And we all have different things that we're bringing into this world, like kind of that spiritual baggage that they talk about in the Kabbalah as well. All these things are really, really important to know. But just know that you're right exactly where you are meant to be in your journey right now because of everything that's coming up for you. So can you take a step back? Hey, what's being mirrored back to me right now? How can I see the beautiful gift in what this is? Because it's showing you exactly what you need to dissolve to be able to receive exactly what you are meant to receive in this lifetime. I think that's a beautiful concept. I think it's a beautiful idea. So hopefully this was helpful to you. I work with people on a one-to-one basis and in a group format around these areas specifically, because if you can master this process, you can start to bring things into reality like so fast. So if you want to work with myself, feel free to check out some of the links down in the description, and I will see you in the next video. See you.